Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting, February 21st, 2024. Time is 4 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Here.
Here.
Commissioner Dean. Here. Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Commissioner Reed. Here. Commissioner Shirtless.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Presentation, as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting, we welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Commissioner, if you have any questions, please move forward. Board appointments. I'm recommending the following board appointments. Citizen Conservation Board, appointment of Pat Olsamy to a first term on the Citizen Conservation Board. Term will expire February 28, 2027. Questions, comments? Public comments on this topic? Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council. Do we have a representative online or present? Okay, we have a recommendations from Helena Citizens Council that are morning mayors and commissioners. At the January 24th full board meeting of the Helena Citizens Council, Brenda Valerio of HCC District Number 6 was unanimously approved by the vote of the entire HCC body. She applied for the position via the Clerk of Commission office in early December. We look forward to hearing from the commission regarding approval at the administrative meeting on 2/21/24. Commissioners, any comments, questions?
I guess, Madam Clerk, we will vote formally on this on Monday.
Correct.
Comments, questions? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Please.
So this process went through the same exact thing with the last applicants, in case you were wondering. So not including this current application, we have 3 spots open for District 6. We approved this recommendation to appoint this individual. It was the only application we received between the time of our last meeting and the last time you appointed. So I just wanted to let you know they went through the same exact process as everybody else.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Mayor Nancy Perry. You have the floor.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This is Nancy Perry from District 2. HCC last met on January 24th, and we're meeting again next week on February 28th. I last spoke to you on February 12th, and I have nothing new to report. So unless there are any questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Comments or questions for Representative Perry? Thank you. City Manager's report. Manager Burton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Presentations. A development review and mapping tool. Community Development Director Shirley, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mayor, Commission, so we want to provide you a quick presentation of what we've been doing here lately, creating some mapping tools, and we'll talk about what we're doing and reviewing from a development review standpoint. Stephen's been hard at work. Since last summer, we started with the housing, map that we presented, to the board and commission, or to the commissioners. Then we've added to that concept. I'll let Stephen kind of dive into what this is, but we've essentially created a interactive explorer for some of our mapping tools. And Stephen's going to give a brief overview and highlight of a couple of those.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Interactive Development Explorer, after some branding and soul searching, is what we decided to name this web page. It has residential development, including large development projects with land use decisions that have come across the City Commission's meetings and approval, as well as residential building permits, and similar for commercial development and commercial building permits. These are what the field of GIS calls dashboards. And there's also an additional dashboard included, the vacant land map, which is similar to previously used vacant land maps from the recent housing task force. And I'll start with the housing development dashboard, which has been presented to you before when we first started this effort in creating new GIS products for the city. But now at the bottom of the page is navigation to explore more dashboards. These are the ones that I previously scrolled past on the main interactive development explorer page. But this is information including the residential building permits, along with some metrics. And then additionally, users can go and select permits either by type or status. So I can't really see what I'm clicking on based on the screen right now. 5 to 12 dwelling unit developments. Zoom was in the way, but it kind of goes in and selects and filters. You have the option to clear. So hopefully it just helps people that need or want to use this dashboard to explore. Similarly with commercial development, if you zoom in, you can click on different features to get additional information about them. This is a conditional use permit to allow K through 12 education use in R2 zoning district. Just to encourage people to get into these and zoom around and explore. Commercial building permits. This is all data that has been captured since the 2019 growth policy. So the estimated total commercial value of all commercial building projects is equivalent to about $230 million. Just other metrics as such. And then once again, you can just go click anywhere and see more about a permit. The address for the ID, the estimated costs, the fees paid, whether or not it's been a certificate of occupancy has been issued, or if it's just in a status of the permit has been issued and waiting for construction to be completed. And then lastly, we land on the vacant lands map, and this is the last dashboard of the set. You can just go and navigate different vacant properties inside and outside of city limits. If you navigate to a property within city limits, you'll likely pull up different information from both the land use plan and the zoning regulations. So right now, when I pull up this parcel, at first it brings me to the land use plan. This future land use was for commercial. We can see that it's zone B2. And then zooming in, we can see the parcel information. I think this is probably going to not be vacant much longer based on where I picked. I probably could have picked somewhere different. But if you're familiar with the development happening in the Capitol Mall area, outside of the city, click on any vacant parcel and you'll see that it's zoned for future land uses, mixed zoning. And then you can zoom down or scroll down in this information. You can find the total acres of this vacant parcel. So that gives a developer an idea of how much room they have to work with if they were to take this and subdivide it or make it into whatever they so choose. And then in addition to those dashboards, we have the current Helena zoning map, future land use map, and these are just kind of the picture that you see on the screen is pretty much self-explanatory. You can go in, point, click, and just review what the zoning or future land use designation was based on the zoning regulations or 2019 growth policy. Another new product for the city and the county is this historic preservation map. The historic preservation map is more of a instant application. It'll pop up with some details about the map itself for viewers to read and familiarize themselves with. And then you can go through and select different properties. The smaller properties are just contributing structures to a historic district. They should come up with some more basic information if they're not totally blocked. So Central School, just some information about it that the County Historic Preservation Department has gone through and added. And then if you click on historic properties, so this is a property listed as a historic place in the National Register of Historic Places. If you scroll down below, sometimes they include pictures. African American heritage sites are also listed, and I believe it might load. I might be having some computer speed difficulties. Usually there's an image down here on my screen, but I'm not sure why it's not showing up today. We can go inspect that in the future. There is a link though. If anyone needs to link out to more information, you can click on the link and it'll take you, in this case, to the state's website. This is a state ran inventory. And as you can see, the internet is just really slow on this computer. So we can let that load and I'll go back to just presenting the rest of the page. Urban renewal districts, this has been a hosted map available through the city website already, as well as the city infrastructure projects. So I will refrain from going through those for time's sake. And then, as always, the Lewis and Clark County, we couldn't do this without them. Eric and Jason are amazing. A huge help in getting all this put together. And that's a link to their website where you can also access the city county viewer, which many in the community use to look up parcel information if they're not in cadastral. And then last but not least, I would encourage anyone that gets to visit this site to leave some feedback, because improvements can be made, and community involvement would definitely be appreciated when deciding to make those improvements. And just some links down at the bottom, but that's basically a tour of the new internet or interactive development explorer.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Super cool maps, big fan, but I'm not a technology expert, so forgive me if this question is a bit simplistic, but is it possible that these maps will talk to other maps we have and or, for example, the LiDAR information? So if you're looking at vacant land and you want to know what the status of sidewalks or ADA ramps are surrounding that property,
Sure.
Is it possible those maps can talk to each other? Is there a way to do that, or is that not? Or is it already there?
I'm happy to dive in a little bit more. So let's take. We'll go vacant lands. So that way, if we were going to develop a vacant parcel, if we were interested in one and we wanted to know if there were any existing transportation facilities, we could go in and look. So within the dashboard itself, there's this little hamburger tool right here, and it opens up layers and also base maps. So layers will, there should be some more additional base maps.
As long as those layers are hosted by our county GIS, they would be linkable here. We'll get with transportation and figure out, I'm not sure, logistics of getting their new mapping tool.
Yeah, they're not currently in our GIS database. They're a separate database, the LiDAR information that was gathered by our consultant, but we can see if we can link the two. They're already linking some called fingerprint information that it looks at demographics. It takes it from the Census Bureau and some other business related information and overlays it onto the Cydian map. But we can also check to see how we can overlay one or the other through this.
And it is my understanding, Mayor and Commissioners, that the county is looking at getting the latest imagery collection added to this imagery base layer. And so when you do go add the base map in the future, once that gets added, you will see the most current imagery collection that we have for the city.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Oh,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm just gonna ask a question. I love this map. I think it's great. I know we talked about this in our kind of our retreat, and I appreciate the work that's been done and been put into this. Is there two parts? Is there a filter to filter by type of zoning, whether it's residential or business? Let's say in the vacant property map, is there a way to single in a type of property? And then number two, have you worked with local developers? Because I think they would love it.
Mayor and Commissioners, I have not received any outside feedback on this yet, but would be happy to and hear out other needs from the community, and especially community professionals. Right now, this does not facilitate any sort of locating or filtering features, but it can be made to do so, certainly.
any other comments from the commission? Yes,
Just
go ahead.
one comment and question. What a useful tool. This is really awesome. And I think there's gonna be a lot of folks in our community who, will actually use it for work, but there's plenty of people who like to spend time on the cadastral anyway. And I think this is like another tool that people are just gonna love being able to dig into. Where can people find this on our website?
So, Mayor, Commissioner, I'm glad you brought that up because it leads me to the next part. So, as you know, we've been working and looking at talking as a staff, development, public works, transportation. Jake's been assisting that discussion about the whole development review process. And one of the concepts that we're going to employ, and we wish we could in the building, that the building just doesn't allow for a one-stop shop where you just go to one place in the building. So we're going to mirror McKinney, Texas, and how they do their, you'll pull that up, Stephen, how they do a development portal. So here will reside all of our development information on one-stop shop page, so to speak, with all the plan resources, engineering, building inspection, code enforcement. So this dashboard will live in here. One more right there, we're listing all the development projects. So this will be the face of the portal, so to speak. And so we hope to have that up fairly soon. We wanted to present you the basic community development map portal first before we went further. But this is the whole idea. I've relied on McKinney, Texas for a lot of process and development portal type stuff. They've been a resource as we go through our EPL implementation too. So really good page, really good concept, and we're going to mirror what they did. So it will be not a standalone, it'll be a standalone page on the city website for development portal, all the resources that you ever need as a development community or general public will reside on this one page. Can't get you in the building in one office to do it all because of the way the building's designed, but digitally I think we can do it.
Right, so until that happens, is it just on the community development website for now or the webpage?
We wanted to present it to you before we actually put some links out there to the public. So initially it will reside on the community development webpage, and then we'll link it to here. So our page won't go away. This will just complement the individual department web pages.
Yes, Manager Burke.
Mayor, I'd just add, I think, Director Brent put more reference to it, but as part of that review process, we'll be looking at roles and responsibilities, ordinance changes, those types of issues that we'll be bringing back to the commission for consideration in the future.
Please continue, you know.
Oh, I'm complete. Yes, ma'am.
Any public comments on this topic? Anyone online, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have a public comment on this.
Thank you, Director Brink. West Side Phase 1 and 2 water and sewer cost reimbursement. Director Leland.
Thank you, Mayor Commission. As we switch over and see if I. Hi, thank you, Mayor, Commission. This has been a extremely long process that goes back to 2016 is when it all started. What we are talking about here is the city project that started when the city annexed phase 1 of the west side, which is basically described from Joslin Street back to what was the existing city limits at the time. This was back in 2016, and you can kind of see in yellow here what it was. Then we in 2018 ended up annexing phase 2 of it, which is basically Knight Street to Euclid and then Kessler School back to Joslin Street. Then as far as that annexation, the city just agreed to install water and sewer to all existing lots. All existing lots that are in both phase 1, and then did a secondary contract for phase 2 because we started phase 1 beforehand. The total project cost was $8.3 million. Here's the overall timeline. Oh, there you go. There we go. And then so we have the annexation, 2016. There was a lawsuit filed by 7 complainants out there that ended up taking about a year and a half to come to an agreement. It was a mediation, and the city signed an agreement in 2017, which sets out how everything is going to be assessed if we come back with a reimbursement. That's what we're talking about, is when we installed the water and sewer into these locations, when a property connects to it, that they will pay their pro rata share of the cost of the overall construction back to the city. So this spelled it out, and it made it very convoluted because we had to split out phase 1 with phase 2 and could not use it as just one big project because it was specifically laid out in the agreement. Then during the whole process when the complaint came, the Lewis and Clark County, in conjunction with the city, got a $750,000 CTAP grant that was used for engineering to be able to design everything, and the city picked up the other portion of the cost. We hired the consultant, WWC Engineering, in 2017. Then the agreement was basically signed at the same time. Then annex phase 2 in 2018. Skip ahead here, plans for phase 1 and 2 were done in 2019. And when we actually went out to bid, our consultant had talked to people in the school board, but all in all, the easement that goes across this Kessler School portion was denied. So we had to go back out to redesign. So we awarded phase 1 and then went back out and did phase 2 with a later date. And through the whole process in 2022, the school district came back and did allow us to go through Kessler School. So we ended up being able to not have to put in a lift station, and we could actually gravity feed it across Kessler School. But this kind of shows on why it is such a long, drawn out process and why it has taken us almost 7 years to get this completed. And then from the time the construction was complete to be able to come up with a reimbursement, we have gone through 3 project managers at staff, 4 project managers at the consulting firm, and had to go back through every single invoice to be able to figure out what happened, what went on. And so every invoice, every single block was reviewed to see what was paid for by the city and what was paid for is going to be paid for by the reimbursement. And just another point, in the
overall funding. Again, it was 1.1 million for the engineering, the $750,000 plus the city of Helena paid for the engineering. None of that went to the reimbursement cost. Phase one was 3.8 million, 105 or 1.5 million in water, 1.1 million in sewer, and then trench restoration was basically the streets. Is how it was set up. So the was 1.2, and then you can go on and see phase two was $1.3 million. With that all broken down on the portions that were not paid for by the city, was all added up in phase one, all added up in phase two, and the overall lots, the square footage of the lots was divided into it. And this is what it came out to be. Phase one, the sewer was 77 cents per square foot. Sewer, if you connect to sewer, is 86 cents a square foot. And then trench restoration was 75 cents per square foot. A lot of the reason that these are different, phase one and phase two, was length of what had to be installed. There was more that was already installed in phase one from the city that was existing. And there was a lot of rock in phase two. So we had a lot of rock and everything, and it's a smaller subdivision or a smaller footprint. So the costs were a little more for both the water and sewer in there, but the trench restoration itself was lower. So it comes down as an example of a 100-foot by 125-foot lot, which is kind of typical. They have 60s. There's all different size lots out there. You're looking to connect to water and sewer with the trench restoration of basically $30,000 for phase one, and phase two would be the $34,000. And the reason again that they are different was because of that agreement. We had to keep them separate. So those are the breakdown costs of everything associated with it. In previous discussions with the commission, it came into the agreement too, and we have 3 existing reimbursements that are in this area. In the past, the city has been discussing that existing buildings have connected within the first 5 years of this reimbursement would do the city would provide a 20-year 0% loan if we wanted to go forward with it. And that's how 3 other reimbursements have been done. After the 5 years, they pay in full for whatever is connected. You just pay in full. New construction, the thought process is instead of having a loan, you're going to have a loan most likely with the construction anyway. So you are just going to roll that over and you just pay it all in full and not have to have 2 separate loans, and to minimize how many loans the city has out. And then if you connect one, you connect to both. You can't connect to sewer and keep your well as domestic. Connect one, you connect to both. And then the wells can be used for irrigation, but cannot be used for domestic use. That is a public water supply issue, health issue, and we get into a lot of problems if that comes in. Again, we'll just go through. These are the 3 existing. We have Granite Street. This is Kessler School, located here, and we had Cannon, which is a small one because it failed septic, and then we had another failed septic over here on Shoto and Cannon. Some of those costs we can get into if you'd like, but at this time I just take any direction. It's been a long process and can go many different directions, so I'd prefer to just ask questions and I'll try and answer them.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How many properties are we talking about in phase 1 and phase 2?
In phase 1, and when you're talking properties, there's some very large properties. We're talking in phase 1, 160 basic lots, and in phase 16, 160. 60. And in phase 2, you're looking around 70 lots.
Oh, yes, please.
And we have a resolution coming forward.
We will, after this discussion we will be bringing a resolution to the commission, but instead of trying to just give you a resolution to structure it similar to these 3 that are out there, and we will be bringing forward to a commission meeting.
And Mayor, this is really rough, but just to give you a big picture view, if at some point in the future it becomes necessary for sewer and water the North Valley. At these costs, and this doesn't include the construction of wastewater treatment plants and water treatment plants. But at this cost, we're looking at about a $340 million unfunded liability. Just to put that in perspective. Now, those are very rough numbers based on this and an estimated number of lots. That's about what we thought.
Any other comments from the commission? Peter?
Just if you have any questions, comments?
Yep, I'd like,
Oh,
you can go first.
okay, if I may, Mayor.
Connected to this?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Can you clarify with me again, do they only have the choice of putting the loan on their water bill, or is it the water bill or their tax bill?
Mayor, Commission, in the past, the resolution was just to put it on the water.
Okay, thank you.
So that it was.
Okay.
Maybe.
And Mayor, for clarification, that would probably be the most efficient way of handling these loans would be on their water bill.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I'm just wondering, I mean, have we heard any feedback? I mean, first time it's come to us, but
Mayor and Commissioner, when the first annexation came in, we had a lot of public comment. We did go out with costs, with Staley Engineering did a cost estimate of, $1.10 was the connection. So there was a ton of public input that came in. Of course, they had some concerns about how high the costs were going to be. But kind of went through that with all the agreements and the settlement agreement and that whole process. So through that, we got a lot of comments, but have not gotten a whole lot more. We have several 11 different properties out there that have signed agreements to pay reimbursement if and when the city ever sets it up. So they do know about it and have gotten a lot of calls. So they have signed agreements with it. Besides having to pay anything, it's been kind of reasonable.
okay, well, that's good. I think that, I mean, I think that all of us started before, I think all of us were on the commission, but I know, I mean, I guess there's a lot of properties that have turned over there in the last 7 years. So that's just helpful information.
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have, go ahead, Commissioner.
So when you say 160 lots, Director Leland, those are developed lots?
Mayor, Commissioner, no, that is developed and undeveloped lots, and you have lots out there that there is a trailer court on them, so they are both in phase one. I believe it was around when we did the calculation back in like 3-4 years ago, it was about 40% was vacant at that time, and the rest was developed.
Mayor, follow-up. Thank you. Of those that are developed, how many have connected?
Mayor, Commissioner, at this time, we only have about 6 that have been connected that were existing.
Okay, so the rest are on septic
Yes.
or have their own well.
Correct.
Okay, so is there a clock that's ticking for them?
Mayor, Commissioner, besides their septic systems and their wells, there has been the Water Quality District and Health have gone out there and have sampled them. There are several that have high nitrates because of the density of the septic systems out there. So the failure of the septic systems, which we are starting to see, and then their well itself, there really isn't a time frame.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Director.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Director Leland. Thank you for this. Forgive me if I missed this. What is the average cost per lot? Is it I'm looking at like
It's based there, you're looking at $30,000, $30,000 to $34,000. And that's a big lot. It's 100 by 120. If it's 60, of course, it's going to be less, but
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick follow-up question. If the reimbursement is set up and everything goes forward, are there any capacity issues, whether with the loan part or with any other pieces? If everybody's like, cool, I'm ready to connect tomorrow, do we see any issues there, any potential capacity problems, or no?
Mayor Commissioner, as far as us being able to connect, because we have put the service line in there, we do not have a capacity issue there. I will speak for Sheila on this one, is the loan could have some capacity issue in her group. She's worked really hard with it. And one thing with this loan and with the previous reimbursements, there is no administration fee associated with it. I know that Sheila would like to discuss that at some point, but we do not charge anything for these loans or to process loans or to do anything. So these are just straight construction costs.
Just to follow up, does the draft resolution include any discussion of administrative fees, or is that not?
Not it. Mayor, Commissioner, not in the present draft.
Just as part of the discussion, I think if we are going to consider the loans, which I'm open to that discussion, I do think administrative fees are important, because if it is going to impact capacity, I think we want to accommodate the needs of the residents who want to do this, but not at the expense of. So I would welcome a discussion about how other places do it, what reasonable fees are, if we are going to consider the laws.
Mr. Mayor, this is probably, I mean, this is gonna be a broader conversation in terms of what the county does in the next few years, and not necessarily pertaining to this annexation. But a couple years ago, the county started discussing what it could look like to develop their own program for the properties that would start requesting annexation and would need to hook up to city services. Is that something that has been in any conversation with the county and our departments as of late?
The only area where we're kind of headed in that direction is the joint infrastructure study that we're doing. But I don't think we've gotten to that level of discussion.
I would say I think it'd be nice to get some maybe numbers on the administration piece, because I struggle with asking city residents who are not part of this annexation, but their tax dollars would be going to help administer this. And I mean, it's one of those complications that I think we're going to continue to have as people want to be annexed or need to be. And I'm hesitant to ask that of our current residents to put that bill.
Is it a bill or a loan?
Well, it's a loan. I mean,
So it'll be paying it
that
back.
charge.
Just as a part of that exercise, because we have several other loans, sidewalk loans, sewer loans, service line
Yep.
loans, housing. Separate this. I think it would be helpful to have those others.
Yeah.
As a part of that discussion as well.
And I think when we can monetize or put a dollar amount on what it offering, because they're all valuable programs, but they don't run for free.
Please. I've got a question, Director Leland or for City Manager Burton, regarding the amount of people that will be hooking up. And you had mentioned potentially in your comments and reference the North Valley. Do we have the water treatment capacity to handle this new annexation? Is there going to be, is that something that we need to be concerned about or looking forward to maybe investing in our current facility?
Mayor, Commissioner, we have looked at that. We have the raw water capacity, because of previous agreements from Canyon Ferry that we have locked up. Looking at it, we have about, under the current situations right now, we have the consultant look at it and we have about 600-700 new lots that we could put in without really having to look at our treatment capacity. However, with us drilling these wells that we are trying to get the water to perfect our groundwater water right, if we get all 7,000 gallons worth, we basically have saved for about 20 years. So we can almost double the size of the city of Helena without really having to add a lot of capacity to it. We will look at adding capacity to the Missouri River Treatment Plant just because that is getting to the end of its life, and we have a water treatment facilities plan that we will be bringing forward. So we'll add capacity as needed, but we won't get to dire need if we can get these wells.
Thank you.
Okay, public comments on this topic? Any online, Madam Clerk?
I have no public comment online.
Thank you, Director Leland. State and Local Infrastructure Partnership Act funding proposal. Administrator Opitz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, you'll recognize this item. It's been before you before. The state and local infrastructure program, just for those who are new to this, was a state-funded program that helps cities and towns fund maintenance and repair of local infrastructure on a partnership basis with a 25% cash match. This was created through House Bill 355, and the bill requires that the legislative body hold a public hearing on their recommended priorities for this funding before staff submit applications. The city was allocated $458,000 roughly, and there's a list of eligible projects there: drinking water systems, wastewater systems, fire suppression, streets, roads, bridges, landfills, streetlights, airports, public grounds, and projects that expand the existing water and wastewater treatment plants that are being operated at 90% of their capacity or greater. The city staff brought 3 projects for your consideration: fire suppression system at Fire Station 2, the wastewater treatment plant bioreactor mixer replacement, and replacement for non-compliant ADA ramps within city rights of way. These were the project costs associated with those. I'm just gonna, this is here mostly as a reference slide for those that might be interested in that data. But I think we're all familiar with these projects at this point. At the last commission meeting, you were all asked to provide your prioritized lists. This was how the chips fell, if you will. And we ended up having 2 commission votes for the bioreactor mixer as the top priority, and also 2 commissioners that provided 2 votes for the ADA replacement. So we have prioritized those 2 first. In this scenario, we would prioritize the bioreactor mixer first. That has a fixed cost. The ADA ramp replacement is something that can be scaled. So we have that as number 2, and then number 3 would be the fire suppression system. Should you choose to move forward with this, we would provide this list in addition to submitting 2 applications for both projects, the ADA replacement as well as the bioreactor replacement. I will point out there is an error on this slide. We're hoping to bring this to a public hearing on March 6th. So this timeline does not speak to the fact that we need to provide public notice.
via the newspaper, and the newspaper has recently changed how they're doing some of their public notice. So we would not be bringing this for a public hearing on on Monday, the 26th. We would be bringing it on March 6th. If there is any discussion, or if you have consensus to move forward with this proposal, we can bring this forward to a full commission public hearing.
And so in the meeting that we had with the department heads, the fire chief told us with us.
He did. I think Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Manager Burton, Fire Chief Campbell did withdraw his request simply because I think that at this point there are potentially other funding mechanisms for that project, and the project's associated costs were somewhat preliminary. These two projects, the bioreactor mixer replacement and the ADA ramp, are far more shovel ready, which is helpful given the timeline that we'll be working in for this funding.
Thank you. Question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on this scenario, and I appreciate it's just a scenario at this point, but based on the amounts listed for the two projects, Director Knopke, could you remind me approximately, knowing that it's not an exact number, how many ramps that would allow us to do?
Mayor and commissioners, that was gonna be around 40-ish, depending upon complexity of the ramps. We would look at doing the work first. So it might be as low as 40, it could be as high as 60 ramps. Which ramps?
And just as a quick follow-up, what is the, again, preliminary scenario? I get it, but what would be your process for identifying which ramps to do?
Mayor and commissioners, we go to our new software, put in the parameters basically for our worst first type scenario, and run that and get a list, and obviously field verify it a little bit, and then just start working on that list.
So will you just plan on including this in when we go out to bid for any other sidewalk replacements, or is this a separate bidding process?
Mayor and commissioners, this would be a separate project. The current, the ADA ramp project for next summer is already out, and we would rather keep this separate because of the funding scenario.
How quickly do you think you would go off then?
Based on the commission's decision, we could have it out within a few weeks. The specs are already written for ADA ramp, so it's really just getting it into the paper and getting it advertised.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, I would just add a follow-up there. The Department of Commerce will also have to go through their process related to approval and disbursement of these funds. So that will impact when we would be able to go out to bid for this project as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a quick follow-up comment, I guess the worst first approach, it makes sense, and I get it. I just wonder if there might be an opportunity in talking to either the ADA committee or other members of the community about, if we fix one here and one here and one there, versus the approach of an actual corridor where all of them are up to standards. So for example, the 11th Avenue corridor, if we do worse first and we still don't have one stretch that is accessible, fully accessible, in my opinion, I'm not sure that's the most efficient way to do it, but if possible to balance worse first with actual connectivity strategically, that would be great to see.
So Mayor and commissioners, as you recall from that heat map, they are located in some general neighborhoods where we have that. Our view is if when we run that scenario worse first, that we have that scatter effect, there's really no rhyme or reason why they're all over the map. We would look at trying to get neighborhoods, I guess, or around schools or what have you, where we could see those ramps being completed would be the best thing for.
Great, thank you.
And it comes from the commission. So Administrator Opus, you looking for some direction, you said?
Just consensus to move forward with this as the priority list, Mr. Mayor.
I don't have a problem with that. You have your consensus? Yeah.
Ms. Mayor, I have, Fire Chief Campbell would like to speak.
Should go there. Okay. You have the floor, Chief Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commission. I apologize for my physical absence and I wasn't able to hear entirely the full nature of the discussion. But given the Commission's priorities and the detailed nature that Director Konopky and Director Leland have of their needs and the further detail that would be needed to address Station 2's issues, it was logical through our discussion that this not be carried forward. So I hope that is an adequate explanation.
In my opinion, yes. Thank you, Chief Campbell.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk,
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Administrator Office, are you okay? Department reports. No, sorry. Raise grant application report. Director Konopky, you have the report.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Over the past couple months, the city has been looking at submitting a raise grant for the East Side Arterial Connect. And that's basically extending Saddle Drive through the on the east side of the roundabout at the interstate and connecting down with Crossroads Parkway right there about Mountain View Meadows. That would go through the property, the Padbury property, ranch property, which would open up approximately 700 acres of developable land. The requested amount is approximately $1.3 million for the design, and that is basically picking it up from where they left off back in 2002 when this idea first came to concept was initially proposed. They went through the corridor study of I-15 and they identified certain areas that they would have interchanges, and South Hills interchange was one of them. Currently at this state, that east side throughway on that interchange is not constructed because it abuts that private land. So with the recent developments in Mountain View Meadows, the housing shortage that we're experiencing for our workforce and everything, the developer came forward and we entered into conversations about how to manage the growth out there and how to develop that area. So this map, which was included in the orange is rushed color, the blue, the yellow, and the green. On the left side there is the Padbury Ranch. On the right there that shows the existing Mountain View Meadows. And then that black line through the middle there would be the proposed route. And so what that accomplishes is it opens up that land for development, for housing, for multi-purpose dwellings. It also creates a bypass for the Helena Capital Interchange there. We looked at through the LRTP last time about connecting Airport Road to basically Wiley Road in East Helena. We ran that scenario through the traffic demand model, and that removed about 3,000 vehicle trips across Highway 12 by just funneling them down to the Cedar interchange instead of Capitol and then coming down. So this would basically accomplish the same thing, whereas people headed southbound could make a left at the light out there across Rhodes Parkway, come across this arterial that would be developed and hit the South Hills interchange and continue southbound. They wouldn't have to go to the congested Capitol Hill or the Capitol interchange. So there's a lot of advantages to this development. It checks off a lot of boxes that not only the city's experiencing, but the governor has wanted to look at through their housing project task force. And what we're looking for is your consensus to bring this forward to sign a letter of support for this project, and basically the support for submitting the application. And that would be on Monday night. I would be happy to answer any question.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Director Knopke. What you mentioned to be a bypass. How many lanes do you expect the new saddle drive to be?
So this section right here would look like that typical section that I showed you what Custer would look like. It would be a 5-lane facility with a 2-way left turn lane in strategic locations with boulevard sidewalks to promote the traffic calming by having trees along the boulevard. And then where there wouldn't be that 2-way left turn lane, that twiddle, we would have a vegetated median there to also introduce that traffic calming. The lanes would be reduced a little bit so that we were squeezing the traffic a bit to also increase the traffic calming so it wouldn't become a super highway through there. We would, also we would have the multimodal aspect to our complete streets. That is one thing that I did leave off up on that south east area. There's a very nice spring, and that has been looked at to make a non-motorized path. And part of the project would look at taking that path down to the interstate and putting another tunnel underneath the interstate, pedestrian tunnel, to connect to the non-motorized facilities on the west side of the interstate. And so that would give a backbone from basically the east side of the city to the west side, connecting in our South Hills trail system.
I am really excited that we are finally going for a raise grant. I think this is the kind of project that is truly ideal. This is only the planning part of the raise grant, but there's more opportunity, should we be awarded, and that design is underway. I think we really are checking all of the boxes of the purpose of the program, and I think this project will just exemplify why those kind of federal local partnerships are just so critical in helping us address the challenges that communities like ours are facing.
Commissioner Wilbur?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So city-owned roadway,
Yes.
and as far as the grant goes, is there a match to it?
Mayor and Commissioners, as we understand right now, we fall into the rural category, which we have the league looking into it, but from our understanding, there is no match for that. One, big thing that is the potential of the dedicated right of way coming in from the landowner, and the dedicated for the utilities for the new water well or new water tank, and then the non-motorized facilities, which enhance this project and enhance the entrance to the city coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's really cool.
Manager Burke?
Here, just to cap it off a little bit. Obvious regional benefits to Jefferson County, East Helena, Lewis and Clark County, the City of Helena from a transportation perspective. Certainly presents future opportunities for mixed-use housing developments for the residents. As the director has stated, it really enhances our ability to provide emergency services. And then the potential water tank, and we've talked to the developer about the dedication of right of way for the road. The water tank parklands the trail system, so it just really does, Commissioner, check all the boxes.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk.
Mayor, I have no public comment on that.
Director Kanopki. Are you done? Yeah, thank you.
At least until the next item, Mayor.
What?
At least until the next item, Mayor.
Okay, I'll be watching out for that. Partner reports. Restricted donation for historic preservation project. Dr. Leland.
Did we miss something? No.
No, there is another item. Transportation systems and local agreements.
State local infrastructure partnership act funding proposal in June. Who's got that? Dr. Kanopki, you have the floor.
Okay, for the we wanted to bring you up to speed on the interlocal agreement that we're working with the county. So the county has elected to use some of their ARPA funds to improve the fairgrounds. And they don't have they have money allocated for fairground improvements, and then working with us as far as basically trading services across this interlocal. They've also allocated money to have the design done for the roundabout at Custer and Henderson. So this interlocal, like I said, shared services. There's going to be portions of the project on the fairgrounds that'll be prepped and prepared, or be prepared by the county, and then we'll come in behind them and assist them in paving. Our portion of this interlocal would be just manpower and time. The county's picking up the materials and all those costs. So the part of this would be looking at Silsbee, paving Silsbee from Green Meadow into the fairgrounds as well. We'd be in talks with the city manager. We might be looking at a little different scenario for that to fully develop that as to complete streets instead of just the pavement as proposed through this project. So we're working through that with the county as well. But for our portion of the manpower that we're using in this portion of the project, that's where their exchange would be to have the design done for the roundabout at Henderson and Custer, which will not only increase the traffic flow during like fair and other large events, to where we may not need to have officers or deputies out there directing traffic because the roundabout automatically directs, but we can build in a slip lane if need be, so that during normal operations that slip lane is not needed, similar to the one out at like Lincoln in Montana, but that slip lane could go directly into the fairgrounds and the other one could go around the roundabout, so creating a much easier traffic flow. The hopes of getting that design done goes back to the Custer discussion. So having that design at Custer and Henderson complete and basically ready to be built, we can incorporate that into the larger project and then get that corridor hopefully completed with this, so that's the project overall. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners? And public comments?
I have no public comment online, Mr. Mayor.
Let's continue.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Right. Partner reports restricted donation for historic preservation project, Dr. Leland. Okay, Director Danielson.
Good evening, Mayor. First, I would like to just take this opportunity to introduce the commission to the city's new controller treasurer. This is Andrew Krzyk, and he just started this week. I'm very excited that he is on board, and he has started with eyes wide open, and we're pretty happy to have it. So the city was notified by Drake Law Firm that we were to receive a restricted grant for a historic preservation service, historic preservation projects. It went through probate and it was finally awarded to the city in the amount of $80,113.24. We deposited those funds into the bank, and I wanted to bring it to the commission's attention that we did receive this restricted donation. After which I got curious as to who Mr. William Grainer was. I was not familiar with him, and so I did a little bit of poking around and found out that he attended school here in the city of Helena and graduated from Helena High School in 1962. He was an Eagle Scout. He served in the Army, and he graduated from the University of Montana with an anthropology degree. He spent most of his life as a history buff, and I reached out to his cousin. I was able to contact his cousin who was in charge of his estate as well, and she indicated that Mr. Grainer was just a very lovely man, and he loved history. His entire house was like walking through a museum. He also owned a cabin up on McDonald Pass and packed it full of books and historical items as well. He was also the gentleman, I remember having a conversation a while back about a Confederate cannon that this person wanted to donate to the city, but the cannon could not be located. And the cousin believed that he probably had sold it, during the time, and it just couldn't be located. But I found that interesting that he also wanted to gift a cannon to the city as well. He had specific interest in the trolley here in the city, and spent quite a bit of time and devoted to that trolley and the aspects of it. And so she had mentioned that anything that we could do to honor his wishes to take some of this funding and dedicate it toward the trolley would be very nice. But any historic preservation project would honor his wishes to the city. So this is deposited into the capital fund as restricted, and we will be bringing forward recommendations on how to expend the funds according to Mr. Grainer's wishes throughout the budget process. And then the commission also can present their ideas or options on how to best honor Mr. Grainer's donation. So, and that's all I have at this time, but I'm happy to answer questions if I can.
Comments, questions from the commission? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a lovely donation. It's nice to thank you for doing the research into who he was. It's nice to hear a little bit about him. I think when you say trial, you mean the one on the walking mall. It would be great if we could talk to maybe Ms. Attardo and or the family and see if we could consider something like a plaque with his name in, on, or near the trolley, of course, respecting all the parameters around what we can and cannot do there. But I would welcome the opportunity to hear from the family about specific ideas with Ms. Attardo's guidance, of course. So thank you for presenting both the information and the person. It was nice to hear.
Thank you, Mayor Commission. I thought it was such a nice gesture to donate this money to the city that I just was the curiosity. I just wanted to know a little bit about the person and his wishes. And so I know that we'll probably work with the Parks Director on the trolley and the plaque, and they can help with that. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you have me curious now, because I think I at one point, I think
Is that right?
I'm sort of a history nerd as well.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like he had a family connection to the city council in the past. So now I've got to go back and research. So thank you. Yep.
sparked your interest there, so.
What did you say he died?
He, I'm trying to think, he died a few years ago.
Pulled his obituary up and it was 20.
It hasn't been too long ago, but yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, January 14th.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then his estate went through probate and then we were finally contacted by, the law firm where it went through probate and, announced that his money was.
Thank you, Director Danielson. Do you have any public comments on this stuff?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment.
Go ahead, Manager Burton.
Mayor, just a request, if Commissioner Logan.
Yes. Right. We'll hold him to that. Okay, Bill Roberts, going forward. Please, discussion. Director Smith, you have.
All right, Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for having us here today. We're gonna start off with the golf course fee discussion. We've had a bidder for the golf here today to answer any questions that may arise. There are only some minor tweaks to the fee schedule this year. Take a look at packets, you'll see that the season pass holders have been adjusted slightly up. And our carts, which we just received a new fleet of carts, cart rates will go up $2 for 9 holes, $4 for 18 holes. And these fee proposals were approved by the Golf Advisory Board with unanimous support. And we're here today, field any questions you may have, the changes and the fee increases that we're proposing.
Director, did the golf board receive any public comment during their meetings when they were discussing this?
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
You done?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Man. Thank you. Oh, you had to. Go ahead, Director Danielson.
I just wanted to add, with both the golf course and the swimming pool fees, that the Parks Director will be bringing resolutions of intention to the next commission meeting and then a resolution to adopt in March.
Thank you. Last chance, Director Smith.
Well, I was wondering if the city manager's office put this last on purpose.
Last chance.
Last chance. All right, first of all, with the golf and the pool, a lot of work has been put in, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, as it relates to surveying other golf courses, municipal golf courses with similar amenities. And then that bleeds into the pool. We did the same for both. So I just want to commend Todd for all the work that he did to get us to where we are. And before I do go on, I neglected to mention one thing about the golf. May I please go back? All right, if you just take a look, I want to speak to the financial trend report for Muni's restaurant. Numbers don't lie. And if you take a look at the increase in revenues over the last 2 years in Muni Sports Bar and Grill, I think it's pretty impressive. And the city should be proud of the operations over at Bill Roberts Golf Course and their food service. Those gains are astronomical coming out of COVID, having great management at the facility along with good hiring. Take a look at the numbers and the revenues and we're seeing this happen. We're open, we're consistent, the public can count on us and they're showing us their support by bringing business into the Muni's restaurant.
That's page 54 of 58 in your.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you. I appreciate this update. In the past, we have looked at the total amount of general fund transfers over the past, I think last time it's a total of 5 years that we've been doing that. Do we have that number?
Mayor and Commission, it's been since fiscal year 2020.
And do we know from then until now what the total amount, including the proposed 85,000 that is upcoming, what the total amount of general fund transfers just to munis would be?
You're gonna make me do math in front of you, aren't you? So 2, 4, 6, 7. Almost 900,000 or more, around the 900,000 mark, and then probably close to a million with fiscal 25 over the course since fiscal year 2020.
And that's the general obligation.
That's to help with the general obligation bonds.
Any other comments? Do we have any public comments on this topic?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment on this.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission?
Mr. Mayor, if I may finish the pool.
Oh, I thought you were finished, man. Go ahead, Director Smith, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. We also have Kate Parrott online today to field any questions that may arise. If you think back to this time last year, there were some discussions about potentially not opening the pool. So we did a market-based research of municipal pools that have water parks. And we are raising our rates slightly to close the gap of the general fund contribution. And the costs of maintaining it and operating it are increasing as well. So if you take a look at the projected or proposed fees, you'll see that we are in line or a little bit below the overall municipal pool for water parks in the state of Montana and the region. And so we're pulling ourselves up, increase our fees a little bit to close that gap of general fund contribution. And we're here today to answer any questions that you may have.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director Smith. Do we have anticipated opening and closing dates for the pool this year that we use to generate these estimates?
Yes, I do not have the dates in front of me, but the training starts in mid-June and we open before the 4th of July for 10 weeks. And I apologize, I do not have the exact dates with me.
So 10-week is the total season?
Same, yep, the same as the status quo from previous years.
Nice follow-up. I have heard a considerable amount from the community about the strong desire to have an earlier opening. Have we looked into what it would take and you know, feasibility of an earlier opening and later closing?
Well, in our research last year, when we were going through this process, we identified that it's over $20,000 in losses per week to operate. So each additional week that we operate is going into deeper deficit to the tune of over $20,000 a week.
Even with the new fees?
The operating costs are what they are, yes. The fees will make up for some of that.
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor, just a quick question. I think it's clarification. I heard Director Smith say that we were talking about not opening the pool. My recollection is we were talking about reduced hours.
Correct. There was multiple discussions going on. That is accurate. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. James.
Mayor, and I know that Ms. Paradin is online and she'd probably speak to the feasibility of early open as well. I know that a lot of the staff that she hires are high school students, and so it's dependent upon, you know, their availability to work at the pool as well. You or Kate may want to add to that.
No, that is accurate. The majority of the lifeguards, high school or returning college students. So to have the availability to train all of them, and Kate trains all of our lifeguards in-house. We do not farm it out and pay for it. And we do it all at the same time. And school needs to be out. And then we hire them, onboard them, and then mid-June is when we hit the ground running with training. So thank you for mentioning that, Director Max.
Do you have someone online who wants to add to the comment?
If you have any questions for Kate, Kate is online.
From the commission? Any public comments, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any public comment, but Kate Paradin is online.
That is all, Mr. Mayor.
This time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission? Anything, why are you here?
Oh, why do I have to stand up? Okay, so I'm just here for one of my scout things, you know. I have to write down about and go to like a city meeting or a court hearing and write down if I agree about what they're talking about.
Cool. And you agree?
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, Richard.
Richard, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Is there any other person from the public? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mayor, I have no vote.
Any final discussion from the commission? This meeting is adjourned. That's pretty good.